Welcome back to the Tectonic Takes podcast, where we get the edge in this season's Cali Clasico series. It's great to say that, and it's great to have you here, Saz. How you doing?
I'm doing well. How about yourself? I'm tired. I have traveled quite a bit myself in this last couple days. So
Yep.
yeah.
So why don't you open things up with telling us about some of your favorite parts of your trip to LA? Of course, seeing the game, but also some of the people that you met.
Right here, this game-worn Christian Espinoza jersey would definitely be the highlight of the LA trip. And then to avoid uh, keeping or to keep my life, seeing my girlfriend was the best part of the trip. That's the correct answer.
There.
No, it was really good. I got to see some friends I haven't seen in a while. Stayed the night at their place, and then obviously saw the game. The game itself was rough. That was a really rough game, but it was fun to actually just get to sit and watch a game. And then I was trash talking the not necessarily the fans of LA, but just LA themselves. And then the people behind me were speaking Spanish, and they didn't realize like I spoke enough Spanish to understand what they were saying about me. So I waited silently. And then once we scored that goal, I just was going off in English. I was going off in Spanish. Everyone got real quiet around me because they realized I spoke a little Spanish. It was very fun.
Good use of Duolingo, Saz. Good use.
Yes, it was that 500-day streak
Oh,
really came in handy.
sweet. Oh, wow. That's
Yeah,
impressive.
yeah.
Yeah, so it's California. People should know better. People should just assume that everyone knows at least enough Spanish to go back and forth in a soccer game. This is
Yeah,
California we're talking
yeah.
about.
Yeah, no, for that, what was actually shocking to me, like, and I know how many like Hispanic people there are in LA. I mean, there's some in the Bay Area, all of California, really. Is how many people were Spanish only at the LA Galaxy saying like people kept coming up to me and they obviously were pre-gaming like drunk coming to me and they would only speak Spanish, be like hablas español, and I'm like sí un poco necesito palabras fácil es muy despacio. But then they would speak no English, like, and then I'm like, then their partner would come over, and then I thought they were gonna speak English, and then there was no English, and like, which like whatever maybe, but I was just shocked like how many different times that happened to me that day.
There's still some massive sub communities in all the metro areas of California where if you work and live and your kids go to school in a certain like 10 block radius and everyone's a Spanish speaker, then you're just used to speaking Spanish all the time. I'm sure they
Yeah,
know English, they can speak it, but they just choose to speak Spanish. And I think that's really cool and it really showcases how much diversity there is in California. And I'm sure there's similar situations in certain parts, like, if there's a Chinatown, similar cases there.
I mean, even my girlfriend's from Fresno. Like, there's parts where, like, the majority, even you could say, it is like Spanish only speaking, and then like if you speak English, they look at you like, what? Like,
Well,
it's really cool though.
with all the Spanish speakers present at Dignity Health Sports Park, the one that was missing most of all was Ricky Puig. Still won't know when he's going to show up, and sometimes it feels overblown how one player can, with their absence, everything just falls apart. And even still, you have good contributions from Marco Royce, who going to this game, he had I think 6 goal contributions in his last like 5 games or something, and he is doing his best to hold down the fort. Unfortunately, he also left the game in the 57th minute when he was injured down behind the play. It looked non-contact. So many different tropes sum up LA Galaxy season. We obviously wish Marco Royce the best in his recovery. We want him to finish out the season. Many people speculated that he was going to retire after lifting the MLS Cup, but he came back for another round. Hopefully, he can find some success, some joy, I guess, in what's left of the season in an individual level. But with this lineup that LA Galaxy put out, you see many of the players that, they're part of the squad from last year, but some of the starters, for example, like Maya Ishida, he's taken a bit of a step back, and some of the players that Paintsill, he was also fighting through injuries, and he felt a little bit more one-dimensional in this game, where it felt like he could do anything he wanted against San Jose Earthquakes in previous games, like in the season opener last year in PayPal Park. But I feel like Bruce Arena came up with a really good game plan to handle LA Galaxy offensively.
Um, that was one of the hardest games to watch. Like it, I think that what made it so fun is I was with friends and we had really good seats and like I hadn't seen them well and it was just fun again getting to like just sit down and watch a game and relax versus being like in the supporter section or whatever it may be, and then just the hype of maybe getting the jersey. It was so bad as far as like how the teams played. Like you could tell we were tired. Like even Ian Harks wasn't running as much, and like the passes and sloppy, and like there's so many things that confused me. One, LA Galaxy Paintsville was dominating us per usual, and like I agree, it was very one dimensional from him,
Yeah,
but the one
compared to
dimension
previous
was
performances, like he
a
was
hundred
more
percent.
human, I should say.
Yeah, yeah, I would 100% agree. The problem is that one dimension is very strong versus us. That is a dimension we cannot travel to. And a bold move from Bruce Arena to bench Rodriguez for a long time, and it's been working so far. But then to throw him into this game of all games, and then throw him on Paintstill's side, um, especially when you have the likes of Mooney, who I would argue is probably the fastest of the back three. Romney has some sneaky speed on him as well. Rodriguez isn't slow by any means. Um, it was a lot of kickball. There was no midfield on either team, especially once Royce was out. It was like a giant oval going through, just kicking back and forth. The I'm still debating whether the standard of play was so bad that Earl Edwards looked amazing, or if Earl Edwards just straight up did have an amazing game. He did have a good game. I'm going to give him his credit. He did. That was the best game of his career. Actually, funny story. Uh, I would love to go back and watch the broadcast and see if you can hear this because sometimes you can hear fans. And I am taking credit for this. It's like the 90 something minute. Earl Edwards gets the ball and he like falls to the ground, takes his time, and Yoshida like comes running through because he didn't get it. So Yoshida's kind of hiding behind the post, and Earl's waiting for like everyone to go. And I just had like a feeling Earl was gonna put it on the ball to like play his feet. Like it just it's something about his body language. So I yell, Earl, there's one behind you. And but as soon as I said that, he does a full 360, looks like back at Yoshida, and then like decides to go long with the ball. And then everyone around me starts laughing, even the LA fans. I'm like, okay, so now I know he's ignoring me. He can't hear me. Um, that was a really cool moment from the game. But yeah, I thought we got away with one, and I'm glad LA won a game now because the anxiety of being the first loss was so much, and like yeah, that was it was a rough performance. I think to get out of there with a point was phenomenal. I think the two subs, Buddha, who I was shocked didn't start over Pellegrino, um, and Judd had an amazing impact. It would have been great for Judd to score on his birthday versus LA.
I think I'll go out of order here because I want to end on a positive note when talking about Earl Edwards Jr. because he gave up the foul that led to the penalty that St. Louis was able to win on Saturday. So it kind of just went full circle that
Yeah.
now the fan base is really not feeling Earl Edwards Jr. right now. And it sucks for him personally. He's worked really hard and he's doing his best and not an ideal situation, of course, because there's injuries around him too. Like it's not just like the 10 in front of him are the healthy, strongest 11. And there's been a lot of chops and changes, of course, because of the rotation. For me, I feel like the fact that we are getting the type of performances from Earl Edwards Jr. that we saw on Wednesday against LA Galaxy, that is probably best case scenario for a veteran backup goalkeeper. There's going to be some highs, there's going to be some lows. Asking for the type of consistency that you would normally get from Daniel, that's just probably not going to happen. So it was a stinker on Saturday, but we're going to praise him for Wednesday. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, yeah, and I'll even add some more of the positives. Like this one, not so much. The first save versus Paintsill, like that was I think a big confidence booster because I think Paintsill did kind of shoot not directly at him, but like it whatever it may be. But I had two sets of tickets for the game. One to sit behind the goal so I could get SB's jersey, and then one my friends and I were sitting like middle, like perfect viewing seats. So I move over in the last like 10 minutes to go watch. So when Espinosa was leaving, I could go get him. And that giant save he had at the end where it was like the header and the one hand slap like over the bar. That was right in front of me, and I will say that may be one of the craziest saves, and just because of the occasion and everything, like for me personally, that might be the craziest save I have seen like directly in front of me in person. That was so insane to see live in front of me, and then the clearance off, like, and the scramble, like going leading into it. And you felt like Yoshida was gonna get on top of something, so that was an amazing high of a moment he did produce. So I will give him his credit for that.
Yeah, it reminded me of some of the saves that Tim Howard would make. Like I'm
Yeah.
thinking the 2011 Gold Cup game against Canada, and it was a World Cup qualifier in that later cycle against Panama, where you had to make a big save late to hold on and keep the result, and that's exactly what Earl Edwards Jr. did.
It was also similar to the Tim Howard one for Everton. I want to say versus Stoke, but I'm not sure where he's like fumbling backwards and then dives and then like while falling backwards like through his own goal slaps it over like on the goal line. Not quite as heroic or beautiful as that, but esque in the realm.
Yeah, one of the themes from these pair of games was trying to buck worrying trends. St. Louis, unfortunately, that negative trend will continue, but to beat LA Galaxy in their home stadium and to end, I think it was like an 8-game winless run against LA Galaxy, it's always very important. You need to find ways to beat your biggest rival in just any sort of Western Conference team. We can still chalk it up to St. Louis that they're the new guys. We haven't figured them out yet, but I think that I can understand why there was some frustration in that game, but that frustration would have been very compounded if we didn't get this win here. And it's thanks to the incredible assist from Preston Judd that led to Buda's goal, and it was great to see they combined there. So it was a birthday assist for Judd.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I what I do want to say is like I had a bad feeling about the game for multiple reasons. I just felt like written in the stars, but I felt like they were starting to get some momentum and starting to get some of their players back. But God, they are awful. Like they are awful. Like that, I don't remember who number 11 was on their team. Only 1 foot. Like he had so many one-on-one chances, or whatever. Just like it was like comedy how bad it was at times, and I can't believe they didn't sub him off. Paint still like just the speed in behind and like oh this bugged me so much for us. I felt there was such a simple fix to so many of our problems in both the St. Louis game and the LA game. And I'm not, as much as people are mad at Earl Edwards for not coming out or being ready for that first goal that they scored against us, I'm pissed at our back line. 101 defending for me personally. If one center back goes up, it's the other's job, and we have 2 others. So it's even easier because the middle one can drop and then the other one can tuck in. You need to drop 5 yards minimum, maybe 10. Because there is a chance you will lose the ball, and then you need to get the deflection that goes in behind. When it doesn't happen, we see Romney get beat, we see the other guy go around, and now it's a 1v1 versus our goalkeeper who wasn't ready for it and expecting it. So that is terrible defending, and it was the same thing versus Paintsville. They would play long, bring it down, try and go over the top. I don't know why we weren't playing a sweeper, why we were trying to go so high against them and missing tackles and going around. I think it was just, and that's what frustrates me when I say there's a lack of like IQ from us at times, because it's something you learn so young, and I do fully understand when you get to that higher level, the reason it looks slower or worse this time is like I think I forget, they did like a study on this. It was called like the speed of play paradox, where it's like the better you are, the worse it looks because everyone's so good, it looks like you're going slower. And sorry, I lost my train of thought for a second.
That's okay.
But with that being said, if it's professionals, I just feel like making these adjustments, like I don't see it, and there's some things like I just don't see tactically that's so frustrating for me. But yeah, that's the little tangent I thought that reminded me of.
Yeah, so just looking at that build up to the goal. So the goal was at the stroke of halftime. That's when St. Louis came in with a 1-0 lead. And when it was likely going to be 0-0, at least that's what I was thinking based on everything that I saw. Of course, full disclosure, Champions League final happening at that time, so this game didn't get our undivided attention. But, I think you can forgive us for that one game. Anyway, so this attack on
Yeah, I'm watching the
Floriani's
highlight as
side,
well right now.
um, I think he had a yellow card at that point too. So if Romney was beat, and Floriani was the next one to cover him, then he might have been a little bit, caught in two minds because of that yellow card. Because you do not want to risk at that point getting a red card and then you have to play the entire second half with 10 players. So
Are you watching the physical video right now? Do you have it up on your screen, or are you just
yeah, I'm looking at some of the notes I got.
Okay, yeah. I have the actual video on
Oh,
my
okay.
screen. So yeah, anyone who wants to watch this, this is exactly what I'm talking about. It's 46, 24 in the match. So yeah, St. Louis has the ball. They play the long ball over the top. Romney goes for the challenge, and here's what's frustrating to me: 25. That's Floriani, right? Or is that Reed?
Yeah, 25 is Floriani.
Yeah. Okay. So you have Floriani in the middle, and if you watch the speed play, don't even play it on slow motion. Watch it full speed. He's slowly jogging back, and he's wide open. So it's not like he's marking a guy. There is a guy behind him who you could argue um, could run in behind, but that is at least 20 yards. Floriani starts to slow down and jog, and he gets to the defensive line good, but he should be accelerating right now. And then he stops at the back line, and now he's jogging, and then here's where you can blame Earl Edwards, because Floriani is now looking at the play being like, oh, Earl's going to come out to this. Earl is caught in two minds, doesn't come out. Now he does come out. Floriani tries catching up, and now it's two players fully out of the play, barely getting to it late. As he's shooting, they score, and they go under him. But if you just watch this, I'm watching it again. So he has the long ball, goes over the top. Romney loses the challenge, which, like, honestly, fair. Like, you're not going to win every challenge, right? Like, I'm not really mad about that. I'm more mad that Floriani was jogging. You should see that over the ball, because it was a lofted ball too. It wasn't a driven. He has the time to get back and cover that, and then Lima can cut in and cover that middle space. And then if they somehow were to get the ball, it had to be a full field switch, which then allows them the time to come over. It's just simple little things like that, where it's just, hey, run an extra 5 yards, positioning, reading the game. That's what's frustrating me. I don't get so mad at the, like, oh, why didn't you take 7 people on? Why didn't you curl the shot, this, that, or the other? Like, that's like a skill thing, harder. I understand maybe we just don't have that. Things like this are what frustrate me, where it's like there's not one person, not even on our team, in the league, you cannot say, hey, jog an extra 5 yards.
Yeah, those defensive sequences,
Yeah.
I definitely agree with you that being critical of that is fair. I also wanted to add number 11 for the Galaxy was Gabriel Peck, so that was the player you were thinking of.
Dude, that could have been me. That was crazy. My friends and I used to play pickup soccer together. We were joking that game is like when you've been playing pickup soccer for like an hour, hour and a half, and it's like the last 10 minutes, and it's everyone just playing long ball, trying to score a goal, and then they don't want to come back to defense, and then the other team does it, and you just do that for like 10 minutes till you get the golden goal.
Yeah, that does remind me that we should definitely play some pickup
Yeah,
sometime soon,
yeah, for sure.
but we'll talk about that off podcast. Now, looking at the New England-esque lineup, you harking back to when Bruce Arena decided to go full rotation in that New England game. It was very positive. We got a point in Foxborough. We weren't able to get a point this time in St. Louis, but the back three of Roberts, Romney, and Floriani, I think that Romney would be doing some of the heavy lifting as the veteran there, but some good moments from both Roberts and Floriani. Floriani, nice for him to get a start in St. Louis. Of course, that's where he played his college soccer. He grew up in the neighboring state of Illinois, so he's very familiar with the area. Hopefully, some of his friends and family were there. So, nice moment for him. And then things got a little bit sketchy on the right half of the midfield. Mark Anthony Kaye expected to come in for this game. And then Nick Lima, unfortunately, he was one of the weak links in that lineup there. Another admirable performance from Nick Fernandez. So this is a thought I had with the New England game that had he not had that injury recovery, he might have been involved at the same point of this team as Bo LaRue was. Now imagine having that much more experience under his belt. You can only fit so many players into the lineup, but having him playing this well at 23 years old, it's nice to have him as an option. And it was also really great to see Jamar Ricketts back and starting. So a lot of positives to take from this game and who was involved in the lineup despite the loss.
Yeah, I think as rough as this lineup was, there were some positives to take out. I'll just go one by one. Earl, we've discussed. Everyone has their set opinion on that. I don't think there's anything more to explore in that. Um, the back line was interesting. I think it was another game of showing just how great Daniel Mooney has been for us. Different style of play, and everyone hold their breath because I know they're not going to like this, but it kind of reminds me of when Tanner Beeson first came in. And it was like, because when Tanner first came in, we were like, yo, who's this kid? Is he going to play for the U.S. men's national team? Like, there were talks like that when Tanner first came in for his first couple years, first year or two. Mooney's got speed. His positioning, his recovery has been really good. And I think we just saw with having Floriani and Roberts, having two of them together, both good, but you see a little bit more of that inexperience versus when Mooney's in there. I think Romney is really good, but I think he is prone to like 1 to 3 like really bad errors a game, which like fairs like happens with everyone. But I think it does bring a lot of leadership and veteran, like you said. And then yeah, we get up to that further line. I think Nick Lima. Look, it's
Why not
I
Paul
don't know.
Marie?
Yeah. I think we know what Nick offers at this point, and it's just a little bit of running, but he doesn't have that pace anymore. Doesn't really cross as much anymore. Like it's just like there, like and it gets exposed, and his defense isn't as great. Like I get Paul Marie does get caught out a lot, but I think it would have offered us a bit more. I think we saw some great offense from Jamar. I think he was
Yeah.
lighting up that left side. I think the crossing needs to be worked on. Again, his first year. I think defensive positioning a little bit and understanding kind of getting caught in two minds while being in that wing back position, not being fully back and not being fully up, um, needs to be worked on a little bit. But again, first year and first time really playing this position as far as I
One
know.
thing about Nick Lima, like we're
Hmm.
now in the month of June, and when it comes to squad management and rotation, you want to give these players opportunities in game time, but they also have to earn it at some point. And I feel like thanks to this difficult schedule, I feel like just about every player that we could expect to see action this year, barring someone making great progress in the town and, of course, a summer transfer, has played for the San Jose Earthquakes. Uh,
Yeah.
with that being said, we've seen enough of certain players like Nick Lima where it's like, this is why you are at this squad level in
Hmm.
this group at the year 2025. I think that there's nothing wrong with that. Like, you're on an MLS roster, and who knows, maybe you'll have a chance to contribute more heavily to another team in 2026, whether it's an MLS or USL. But yeah, it's just been rough. Like, when he's played, like, I can't think of a really average performance even
Yeah, I agree.
this year.
Uh, No,
And
100%.
I
I agree.
appreciate Nick Lima as a Bay Area person. There's some aspects of Nick Lima, your mileage may vary with him off the field, but he
100%.
had a good first run with San Jose Earthquakes. We're gonna remember that, and you might need to rely on him at some point. And until that point happens, I think that maybe Paul Murray gets another chance there, but we'll see. Bruce Arena, he has that connection with Nick Lima too, so that also plays a role there. And I
I think
believe
he
you
also
were
views
on.
Paul as more of a forward.
Yeah, and that's true. If Paul Marie is really meant to be more of a winger than a fullback in this system, then that kind of takes him out of the equation there, and especially when he's subbing on Espinoza and Costa and Pellegrino, then there's not really room for Marie in this game. And then you're on to Fernandez.
Yeah, but I mean, even building off your point, like I don't think it'd be a massive improvement, but I really don't think it'd be as far as maybe like technical building all these things like Jack Skane. Like I'd love to see. Like I think he's for sure faster than Lima. I think on all the speed tests he's always like top three. He's sneaky fast, physical, younger. Like Nick Lima's not really offering us technically. I think Jack can offer us a little bit more
I'm
speed
glad
and
to see him on the bench for
simplicity.
this game
Yeah,
because
yeah,
even when he
exactly.
played well in the U.S. Open Cup, he wasn't in the squad the next game.
Hmm.
So it's a very competitive roster right now, and this has been a
Yeah,
theme we
yeah.
brought up the last 3 or 4 podcasts. But these are just 5 players that are currently listed as injured. I guess 4 because we're going to exclude Mentali now that both Daniel and Edwards are available. But Arango, Jones, Shakiris, and Buck. So that's 4 more people that are going to be nailed into the matchday squad in some capacity, likely starting as much as he can fit in there. and then that's going to be 4 less spots for the bench. So good problem to have, but it shows how competitive this roster is right now.
No, 100%. But yeah, moving on to Fernandez, reminds me of like any random like center mid that we always sign and have for like 1 or 2 years. It really just be see if he can take that next up. Like
Judson,
Luis Felipe, yeah. I mean, Judson at least played like a role. I'm thinking literally more like Luis Felipe type of guy, where it's
I
just like
like that.
his name's on the roster and he plays a game here or there, and it's like it's not really flashy and he's not like terrible, but you can tell like maybe he's a step or two below the other guys. Um, Mark Anthony K, dude, it's time to put old Yeller down. It is like leave the game before the game leaves you. Like I like him, he's nice, but oh my god, dude, it was turnover after turnover, and it's just so slow. That even the commentators were saying I don't always agree with them. Most of the time we don't, but there I don't think it was led to the goal, but it for sure led to like a shot or something where there's a time Mark Anthony K gets the ball and it's like in their final third, and he's just kind of sitting on it and he's trying to like play make. You can tell by being like calm on the ball, and they just pick his pocket, and then he tries winning the ball back, and I believe he gets a foul. That is what happened. It wasn't a shot; it was a foul, and it just felt it's always a step or two behind the pace, and it's just not there anymore for him.
And that's why you usually
Um,
see him coming on as a sub alongside either LaRue or Harks. And
yeah,
that creates still a steady-ish midfield presence in that combination. It just wasn't having that desired result when it was him and Fernandez. And Fernandez was the one subbed off in this game. So we got 90 minutes of K, which is probably surprising considering the rate that he was turning the ball over. He would seem like the more obvious sub candidate in that situation.
yeah. I think Fernandez is probably getting a little tired, and I think he trusts K more with the experience. So like, I kind of get where Bruce is coming from, but yeah, even when he comes on as a sub, dude, like I'm wanting high energy and a defensive midfielder presence from him, and I just don't get it. I feel like we have a big gap. Um, when he's there, like he'll get caught out. There's things he does bring positive. I think some of his movement and some of his ideas are good, but again, it's just so slow and so poorly executed. I think it's just, it looks like heavy leg. I don't know what it is, but it's time.
And speaking of heavy
Um,
legs, Hernan Lopez getting more
yeah.
integrated back from injury. We got 60 minutes from him, and I think this was one of his better performances post injury.
Yeah, I'd agree. I really liked his Portland performance. Honestly, that was my favorite of them. I wonder, and I'll pose this question to you: do you think this is Bruce punishing him for how long he was out? Because I think the consensus from everyone was when we saw how long he was going to be out for a shoulder injury that we still don't know how he got. It was kind of like, did he actually like lose a bone? Like, how is this taking so long? Do you think this is Bruce's way being like, nah, you're coming back slow. Like you are gonna have to earn all your minutes back.
Yeah, this lineup is essentially Romney plus 10 backups. This is what we
Yeah.
got. So uh, Lopez is going to have to work his way back from that position, and he's in a very competitive part of the field in a competitive roster. Do you dislodge LaRue or Harks? Do you put him out wide? Probably not as wingbacks. As winger, we know how Bruce Arena feels when he's asked that question. So there's only so many places that you can put Lopez. He hasn't been as consistently effective in the minutes that he has played. So we'll see. Of course, with the amount that Quake's paid for him, with his salary, he's probably going to want to be involved more. Otherwise, I'm not sure if it'll be a move this summer because I'm sure suitors would want to see a few more months of action because they know of the injuries coming back from. But that could be an interesting situation. It could be just Montero. It's like a talented player that, the squad evolved around him, and it's just not going to be the Lopez show as much as we thought it was going to be when he first arrived. But I still hope so. And it's greedy, but Lopez off the bench, like there's a lot of good teams in MLS that have a Hernan Lopez off the bench. So maybe it's not greedy. Maybe it's just like, okay, we're becoming a better team now. Let's act like it. And You need quality off the bench, and we're going to have that because we have quality starters too that are keeping these guys on the bench.
Yeah, and I should have put it together earlier, but he was pissed, like coming out for the warm ups of LA because he wasn't playing when I was there. Like
The
he didn't really want
Instagram
to talk to
posts.
anyone. Yeah, he gave like a quick thumbs up. That was about it. I get it. We don't really play with an attacking mid anymore, so I get kind of like why it's kind of hard to fit in him. I like the idea of him at left wing. I still would have started him in the LA game personally. The ability to hold the ball and be a little bit of like a drawing in force and control it a little bit versus just sending it up top and it can connect and you can kind of run off that. Um, I think he really tried to show himself today, and it really did feel like a varsity player on JV. Like when you move them down, maybe they have an attitude problem, whatever, and then they try doing as much as possible, dribbling as much as possible, doing this, and you're like, okay, yeah, he does have the ability to do this,
Yeah.
whatever it may be. And the goal that got called off now, given the goalkeeper didn't go for the save on it, but megging and going around everyone for the Preston Judd foul on the screen. Unfortunate.
Yeah. Regarding the attacking mid spot, like even if we had Arango and Martinez both available in an ideal world, you're not necessarily going to use that formation with a center attacking midfield spot because that would also mean that you have to put Espinoza in a position that he's less comfortable with. And then you're sacrificing probably Victor Costa, which depending on the day may not be the worst sacrifice, but then you're not getting the most out of Day One Jones when he's being able to be on a wing partnership with Espinoza.
Yeah, and I agree. And I mean, that's why I've been saying that we do not need to start Chicho and Joseph at the same time. And now we're in a boat where they both are not even like, I mean, Joseph was able to come on, but he's on the verge of a hamstring every other day, coming off of that. And then
Venezuela
Chicho's
duty.
hamstring. Yeah, exactly. And then Chicho, his hamstring is gone for another week or two. But yeah,
And
we can move on to, yeah.
thinking about the injury situation, I feel like projecting to the Portland game on June 13th, the likelihood that we get Arango, Shakiris, and Buck back. Jones is a bit of a murky one. I'm assuming at this point that because of the injury that eventually USA, if they haven't already, they're going to send him back. So maybe move
I
him
think
back.
he did get replaced. I
Yeah,
think he
he
did
got
get replaced.
replaced by Harriel from the Philadelphia Union. So
Yeah, and then I heard DeJuan's just like a knock. Like I think he'll be good soon.
good.
Um,
So
and then I mean Nico's not really even been in the lineup. Like he got like a 2 game stretch and then he got hurt again. Like I'd imagine with Harks and LaRue being good still, like he doesn't really see much time. Then he is favoring K
of the
over him at the
four,
moment. So we'll see.
of the four of those players, Arango, Jones, Shakiris, and Buck, if you're gonna not have any of those four in the squad, Shakiris is probably the player, which is kind of wild to think about because we love him as Quakes fans. Like we know what he can bring, but there's just only so many players who can fit, and this is a post-COVID world where now we get 9 players on the bench. It feels like
Yeah.
going back to like 2017 or something. It's like how did we do this with 7 on the bench this whole time? Like this doesn't make sense. But
Is Noel coming back soon? I thought he was out for a while.
he I don't trust some of these like timelines that say like mid June, late June. He's
Because
the
of
one
me
that I think they're
especially.
gonna take his time with him because he's a young player too. If he can get back up to speed with enough recovery time, he's not just a good player for this season. He could be a good player for 3 or 4 seasons. It's hard to think beyond that because if he's really good, he's obviously an English underage international. Then he might not stick around San Jose Earthquakes that long. He could go to a EFL Championship side or something. But I think that there's a good chance that we get at least a couple of those guys back. I think the players that we're most concerned about, of course, Buck, we're not expecting him to be rushed back. And then Arango, he could still be maybe another game out beyond Portland.
Yeah. And then just moving on to the final two,
Yeah.
Preston and Buddha. I think we did talk about what a big drop off it is. I got to give him credit. I think it's less of a drop off now. It's still a big drop off, but it's a thing of now where it's like, not only do I expect, I want a 15 to 25-minute appearance from one, if not both of them, every game. I think they're phenomenal impact subs. I think they bring a lot of energy. a lot of tenacity, a lot of fight, and clearly every once in a while some goal scoring ability. Um, I think they lack the consistency and the experience and the I don't want to say ability more say to be starters and do it for 90 like a Chicho or a Joseph or an Espinosa have proven to do for us. But they've been great subs, and I think they deserve a bit of a start today. Get them a little more cardio, get them a little more experience, get them a little more comfortable. Um, but yeah, I mean, it was a rough 2 games, like just as far as watching.
Yep. At least in a results oriented perspective, we are able to renew this rivalry with a win. Because if you go the stretch that the Suns Earthquakes did without beating LA Galaxy, it doesn't feel too much like a rivalry, especially when the Apple era of MLS, it's like, oh yeah, we feel obligated to call this the California Clasico and give it the respect that we give the Florida rivalry, El Trafico, Cascadia, especially the Seattle-Portland combination of Cascadia, those rivalries, and of course Hudson River. Like, it's still that important of a rivalry, and it's kind of bittersweet in a way that, it's great that Galaxy sucks, but now that we're starting to go upwards on the trend, they're going down on the trend. There's still that missing piece of, like, it helps when both teams are good, but we'll take it any way we can get it. And it was just incredible that the social media admin unloaded the meme folder on that
Yeah,
result. It was like 5 or 6 posts, and
and
usually
they
you
got a
want to be
response out of Ricky.
selective with which ones you like, but screw it. I like them all.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, even Ricky Pooch was annoyed with everyone, and he responded with like the last like 10 games, showing how like maybe I'm like, dude, you played like 2 of those, if even.
Yeah, so overall, if I were to sum up the month of May, I would sum it up with the word progress. We definitely saw progress with this Quakes team. The 8 match unbeaten run, 5 wins, 3 draws. If you take out the U.S. Open Cup wins, it's 3-3. So MLS wise, you were able to get 12 points for your efforts, which is still a pretty big deal. It could have been a little bit more because when you have as many draws as wins, the term unbeaten doesn't feel quite as impressive. It ended with a loss, but we were due for a loss at some point.
It
Aside from the
was it was
Portland,
so close too, and it's like I think one thing that has to be mentioned in a great round of applause is to Bruce Arena and this ability to rotate the squad as much as we did because there were 2 or 3 games where we all looked at the lineup and at minimum and we were like, what the hell is going on out there? What is this? Is this me and a couple of my friends like coming out? But they got the results, and I think that ability to rotate players, including Christian Espinoza, um, is so huge. And even with all that rotation, we looked gassed. So I can imagine if we didn't, it would have been a lot worse. And now to get this week off, week and a half, 2 weeks, whatever it may be, uh, if you count like the next game day, and I don't know how the training is going to be and how they're going to do that. I think that is huge, and I think that is going to go a long way for the Quakes. I think that helps come September.
one thing I will say is that Major League Soccer needs to look at how this month of May went. San Jose Earthquakes obviously not the only team that went through a brutal schedule. If you want to win a Concacaf Champions Cup, you need to change up the roster composition restrictions because Vancouver Whitecaps, they were hamstrung by that too. They also had call ups internationally. They were juggling with a lot. Granted, Cruz Azul, they had to deal with the Liga as well. Wasn't necessarily the easiest schedule for Liga MX, but they also have less roster restrictions. So losing 5-0 sucks. Inter also is going through that situation too. There's no excuse for that. Not one player, like someone said that Sebastian Berhalter was missing. It's like, are we really expecting a Berhalter to change the fate in this big game? Let's be real there.
Yeah.
But
Do you know the protocol for next year
for
with the World Cup?
the
And like, is it just going to be like business goes on if they're taking a break or how they're working all that?
I feel like MLS decides these things at the last possible minute. They probably won't put anything out regarding their scheduling for next season after the playoffs are done this season. That's when I would expect it. One other piece of Bay Area news before we go into the Gold Cup and the Club World Cup to end our show today is Oakland Roots have sacked their manager Gavin Glinton, and Benny Feilhaber, fresh from his Sporting Kansas City 2 job, he will take over for the remainder of the season. And we'll find out if it really was the coach or the players there, but it has been a rough season in the Oakland Coliseum. I will still gladly go there because I have a lot of great memories growing up going to A's games there. It's a lot of fun going to Oakland Roots games. G-Eazy halftime performance, that was kind of cool, but the most important thing is results still. Let's not forget about that, Oakland, please.
Yeah, I just looked back at my jersey. I had another funny story. I remembered. This is a game-worn jersey. Like, I have the video of him taking off the jersey and handing it to me and me doing the swap with him. And I've heard, like, horror stories in the past of, like, people being like, oh, that was, like, disgusting. It was, like, I had to wash it. This, that, the other. I have a running joke with Christian Espinoza that he is the best-smelling player on the team. Because every time he comes out, he just smells phenomenal. It is what it is.
It doesn't make logical sense because he always plays 90 minutes, barring, like, these last few games.
Yeah, but my whole thought process is, like, he does go in after he showers, he puts on the cologne, he does whatever. Here's what was crazy to me, is after the game, is, like, I didn't, like, go and sniff his jersey, but, like, I do go into a closed car after with the jersey there, and I can, like, smell it, right? Phenomenal. I still smelled his cologne. He played, like, 80 minutes that game. It was a little wet, but it was, like, my car, I could smell the cologne off of the jersey in my car, and I'm like, I felt like he did it to punk me. I felt like he snuck on a cologne bottle, and because he knew I would talk about this, and like before he gave it to me, because he did an interview and ran over, and he got soda. I swear he like sprayed it with some cologne in the car. I didn't give it like a big sniff test to see if there was any BO or anything, because I think that'd be weird. But the scent of cologne was on it for like a day or two. Because even when I went to my girlfriend's house the next day, she's like, I'm like, dude, I could smell the cologne. She's like, yeah, no, I can smell it as well.
From the mountains of Buenos Aires. I could have been
Yeah.
just like a regular cologne he got at the mall, but you know.
Tom Ford. He used to wear Dior, but now it's Tom Ford for the season, I think.
There you go, the cologne expert. I cannot claim to be one, but I do think that we are somewhat qualified to talk about the Gold Cup. And Saz, Abel, and myself, we each came up with some predictions regarding who we're predicting to get out of each of the groups, as well as who we think is going to win and lose the final. We'll also throw a scoreline at you. So I'll start with Saz, then I'll go myself, and then I'll also read out Abel's picks. So Saz, why don't you start us off with Group A?
Yeah, I think Mexico's the clear front runner for the group, and then I'm going to go with a rogue shout. I think Dominican Republic is actually taking that second spot.
It's a double tectonic take because Abel picked Dominican Republic as well, along with Mexico. Shout out to all our Dominicanos. We may not be on the right coast for that in terms of there's more Dominicans on the East Coast, but if any of you are watching, you know, at least two of the three of us think that you'll get out of your group. I wish I could make it 3 for 3, but Costa Rica is in that group, so I'm still going to go with Costa Rica to finish second behind Mexico. Mexico is taking quite a different approach than the United States in terms of their roster composition. It hasn't been chopped to its final stage yet, but pretty much all of the notable players are in the mix. I don't think they're missing anyone with injuries either, and the fact that someone like Chucky Lozano, granted this isn't prime Chucky Lozano, might not make the final squad, it shows how deadly this Mexico team can be, especially in a Gold Cup. Of course, Mexico have won more Gold Cups than anyone else. They've consistently had at least a 2-trophy lead on the United States throughout much of the history of the Gold Cup, and they're going to be favorites in this one. And we'll go on to Group B. I'll start off with Canada first, and then El Salvador second.
I'm gonna go Canada first, and then I'm gonna go Honduras second. I think Canada is again the clear favorite going through that. I think maybe they drop a game somehow, but I do think the next three are all awful teams. I think Honduras is the least of the awful from the three.
Yeah, I think it'll be close between Honduras and El Salvador.
Yeah, agreed. And then
Abel is also going Honduras. Are you sure you two haven't talked before this?
No, yeah, no, we didn't. Yeah, no.
Now, I'm not going to have suspicions if there's some alignment with Group C. Why don't you start us off?
Yeah, I'm gonna go Guadalupe first. I'm just kidding. I'm gonna go Panama first, and I think Jamaica second. But I wouldn't be shocked if Jamaica actually can pull a first out.
Yeah, I think this, in terms of the two teams going out, this is probably the easiest one to kind of project. Abel and I agree with you. Panama followed by Jamaica. I think at this point, Panama deserves credit in terms of their recent performances in the Copa America and in the Nations League, even at our expense. But still, like Panama are capable of beating the top dogs regularly than anyone else. And Jamaica at one point that was their role. Jamaica knocked out Mexico before setting up a Jamaica versus USA Gold Cup final in Levi Stadium not too long ago. So we'll see how that goes. And then how
I gotta take
about
time. Take
Group
this
D?
next route. Yeah, yeah, I got you with this one. If it is a MLS led squad, USA is first because I think they want it more and they're fighting for that World Cup spot. If it is a more star-studded, what we expect to see first team lineup, we scrape through for second, and I think Saudi Arabia takes first.
Yeah. The only wild card is I have USA and Saudi Arabia as well, but will Saudi Arabia send home their big dogs after their World Cup qualifiers against F1 track Bahrain and Australia? Now that's the question. Either way, though, I do think they have enough depth compared to, no offense, Haiti and Trinidad and Tobago. I do still expect them to advance. Although, maybe a smaller tectonic take than the DR one, Abel picks Trinidad to get out of the group with USA.
Yeah, I wouldn't be too shocked about that either. There was a coin flip from between Saudi and Trinidad. I think if Saudi comes with their full team, they might get some luck, or we'll see if the refing was just that corrupt in 2022. I think Haiti, we can all agree, is on a 1 week vacation with friends. I
Yeah.
think that's what we're
When
expecting
you,
from that
one
group.
of your star players is Derek Etienne, it's tough going. Although they have that Wolves midfielder, he's pretty good.
Yeah, and honestly, this U.S. team has lost me over the last couple of years. I'm just so sick of them and their attitudes. I think they got to win me back for the World Cup.
Well,
So
one way they can win you back is Max Arston.
yeah, yeah, I'm rooting for Max. Yeah, you know what? That's right. There will be players I root for,
Diego
but maybe
Luna.
the team. Yeah, yeah. Dewan, if he somehow makes a miraculous recovery, I
Well,
hope
let
Max
me
has a
just
great
list the
tournament.
players that are not going for the USA. And these are
Okay.
the only two that are due to injury that I can tell. Schulte and Balogun. So those are the only two that are injury. The rest are for other reasons. Anthony Robinson, Scally, CCV, Wiley, Trusty, Tolkien, Noah Kai Banks, Busio, McKinney, Weah, Reyna, Pulisic, Musa, Sargent, and obviously Rob God Kcal. Maybe not that last one, but that's a
Yeah,
lot of guys.
I gotta be honest. I saw a lot of like, especially ex internationals, be disgusted in Christian Pulisic, especially for taking this time off. I actually prefer it. I don't care if we win this. Like at the end of the day, like if it's between us and Mexico, there is a part of me that just wants to get it over them because it is like the rivals, right? But like at the end of the day, who really cares about a Gold Cup? You know what I mean? That it's like it's like the Carabao Cup. If you win the FA Cup, great. It's not quite the Champions League, but the FA Cup is still a great title, right? But the Carabao Cup, cool, cool, all right. And I guess it's one of our more big things, but I honestly don't care that much. I rather these guys had a long season. We have Americans that are playing serious minutes in Europe now. Let them rest. Let them rest and hopefully be more fresh for the actual World Cup, where I would hope they would put in a good performance.
Yeah. Let us know in the comments or Discord, Twitter, Blue Sky, what you think in terms of the Gold Cup, any predictions you have. And we're going to share with you our final predictions. And I'm going to start off. I think that it's going to be Mexico versus the United States. I should mention a caveat that we don't know how the knockout stage is formatted. They haven't officially listed that. I'm assuming, though, because it's CONCACAF, that they're going to want Mexico and USA on opposite sides of the bracket.
Yeah, hundred
So
percent.
I'm assuming that's the case. Mexico beats USA 2-1 in the final. What do you got,
Yeah.
Saz?
I think we get knocked out in the semis or the quarter, and as much as it pains me to say, I think Mexico will win it.
against some other non-US
Yeah,
team.
some yeah,
Panama,
whoever
maybe.
yeah makes it Curacao. Yeah, I think maybe they make a surname.
Abel
Yeah.
thinks it's going to be Mexico versus Canada. Now, if it's the World Cup format where A versus C and B versus D in the semifinals, assuming all the group winners, then that final could be possible. Canada, I haven't looked at their roster intently, but if it's full strength, they would be the second best team besides
I like
Mexico.
Jesse Marsh as well, so I don't hate the Canada shout.
So that just leaves us with the Club World Cup. Yay.
Yeah. Like some teams sending their full lineup and some teams sending their B team with like one star. Yeah, like
But shout out to Gilberto and the others in the Tectonic Takes Discord who wanted our thoughts on the Club World Cup. It's just a mishmash of teams. You got Auckland, New Zealand, you got Mamelodi Sundowns, and then you got the UEFA Champions League All Stars, and somehow Red Bull Salzburg. So it's just this is a weird configuration of soccer Avengers that we got for this
yeah,
World
no, for
Cup.
real.
And we don't know which
Got the
teams are going to
month
be
long.
on the beach. We don't know which teams want a little bit of redemption because there's some teams that had a horrible end to the season, like Inter that just ended, but it's so fresh that I can't in good conscience think that they're going to be able to pick themselves up and then it's like, okay, let's go for it, you know? But there's other teams that maybe had a few more weeks to ponder some of their missteps, maybe in the Champions League knockout stages or missing out on a title race, that they might have that energy to prove themselves a bit more. So, why don't you just hit me with, if you had to pick, what final do you see happening in the Club World Cup?
Oh, final, jeez. Okay. I mean, I could go group by group and who I think will win the group.
You can do that if you want,
Yeah, that might be a little
and then I'll
easier.
go the
I'll go.
final pick.
Yeah, I'll go quickly through it so it doesn't take too long. I think for Group A, I think Porto takes that out.
Hmm.
I don't think Inter Miami are gonna put a real squad in there. Plus, even if they did their defense, I'm gonna go. Rest in peace, the MLS team with probably the hardest group, Seattle Sounders here.
Rest in
I'm gonna
peace,
go.
Seattle Sounders against PSG.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm actually gonna go Atletico Madrid though.
Oh,
I think PSG are gonna not care after winning the Champions
that's
League
true.
and
Yeah,
put
exactly.
in like uh, uh, Baguette from third division team. I think Atletico will at least have some guys in there. I think they'll pull through. I think Bayern still clears that group unless Benfica win full force. But even then, I'm still taking Bayern. Group C. D, I'll take Chelsea. E, Inter, even with their B squad, I don't think any of those guys are touching them.
However,
Uh,
I will
yeah.
say, because this is what Abel and I both picked, and we didn't talk about this either, the
Mhm.
non-European team most likely to go the furthest, I think it's in that group. It could be River Plate. I think there is a non-0% chance that they could pull the upset against a sulky Inter. And even still, looking at some of their paths in the knockout stage, you could see a sneaky quarterfinal, maybe semifinal in there. Uh,
I
the
can
other
see Inter
candidate for
Miami.
me would be in that group A, Palmeiras, because of all the European teams, Porto probably one of the more favorable ones, and I think that they're stronger than both Al Ahly and Inter Miami. So that could be interesting.
I could see Inter Miami if
Hmm.
they just if they get a good group stage off and then the gods bless them with hey wait let's get Messi to that final. Let's see. D to Chelsea, E Inter, F. Yeah, I'll still go Dortmund. I think they pull it. I'd be shocked. Fluminense would be sick though. Um, I got actually. You know what? I'm gonna go Group G. I don't know who it's gonna be, but I'm gonna say it's not Juventus or Man City. I think there's an up. I think that's the upset group.
Ooh, interesting.
Yeah. Um, I think it's just like miraculous.
Hmm.
And then maybe Juventus actually, but and then Group H, I'm gonna go Real.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll go Real.
Honestly, I had the opposite reaction with Group C. I thought that Wydad and Al Ain would be fighting for third, and it'd be between that and Group F, or what's the weakest of the bottom half teams. Because similar with Ulsan of Korea and Mamelodi Sundowns, I think they're fighting for third as well in that group.
Mhm.
But my final prediction, I'm thinking in terms of depth, as well as having a little bit more of a point to prove from European exits. Real Madrid and Bayern in the final, and then Hungry Dog runs faster because Real Madrid didn't get any trophies this season. They'll go full force and they'll manage to squeak out a narrow win in the final. I'll say 1-0 because it's a summer game. It's not going to be a 3-3 thriller.
Yeah, that's fair. I also feel Ancelotti doesn't care anymore, and he's just ready to go to Brazil. And I think a lot of the retired guys are just like, yeah, let's just coast through, have a little bit of fun. I can actually see Bayern being like, and company being like, I want another thing on my trophy. So if it were that final, I'd actually edge Bayern.
Yeah, and for those of you watching, if you enjoyed the Gold Cup content, I'm not sure how much more we're going to talk about the Club World Cup. We'll probably mention a little bit if there's an interesting result here or there, but more so on the Gold Cup side of things. If you enjoyed that, then we'll keep that going as one of the segments in our next couple of episodes. We'll see what we have to talk about in our next podcast. If we do it next week, we'll be previewing the Portland Timbers game. We'll also probably have a little bit more information on the final rosters of the Gold Cup, so we could talk about that. But as always, be sure to follow us on Blue Sky and Twitter and join our Discord if you haven't already. And thank you so much for all your support. Drop a like on this, and we'll see you next time. Go Quakes!